Hello, so this is my Friday forecast, and let's get right into looking at the euro and the US dollar. So currently this pair is heavily ranging. I can see that we are breaking the highs retracing, breaking the lows retracing, and I see no movement to the upside or to the downside. So what I would like to see is a nice big impulse to the upside, and then I would look for a trade. Or I would like to see a nice big impulse, pull back another impulse, look for a long trade. What can happen? We can get an ascending structure, and if it's a clean ascending structure, then I would look for an impulse to downside and look for a short trade. Also, I know that on the euro we can get an ascending structure, impulse in the same direction, then I will look for a trade. We can just stay ranging, which is the highest possibility that we will just continue with this range, because the euro really likes to range a lot. What I would also like to see is a nice big impulse to downside, look for a trade. Or a nice big impulse, pull back another impulse, look for a short trade. We can get, as I said, a descending structure, impulse to the upside, look for a trade. Or we can get a descending impulse in the same direction, look for a short trade. And what I need to keep in mind is that if we do get a larger range, so something like this, that there are liquidity areas above and below the range, and price can often just push into those liquidity areas and retrace straight away. So I need to be really careful, because when the price reaches those liquidity areas, I need to see a nice big impulse and a nice continuation pattern. Otherwise we can just pull back into the range and continue with this sort of price action. And this is so because people keep their stops. So the ones that go short have their stops in this area, and the ones that go long have their stops in this area. So the market makers can just pick people's stops and then push back into the range or reverse. So yeah, definitely something to keep in mind when looking at the larger range. And it definitely signals that we need to be more patient when looking for momentum and an impulse. So now for the euro and the Japanese yen, so very similar picture. We are just ranging, so it's ranging price action, breaking the lows retracing, breaking the highs retracing, and I can forecast more ranging price action. So something like this. And what I would need to see is a nice big impulse to the upside. Then I would look for a trade. Or I would like to see a nice big impulse, pull back another impulse, look for a long trade. We can get an ascending structure, impulse to the downside, look for a short trade. Or as I said, on the euro pairs, we can get an ascending structure, impulse to the upside, look for a long trade, so impulse in the same direction as the ascending. And then same thing to the downside, look for an impulse, pullback, or look for an impulse and a continuation pattern, or look for an impulse, pull back another impulse, look for a short trade. Or maybe we get a descending structure, impulse to the upside, look for a trade. Or what can also happen, so we can get a descending, then impulse in the same direction, look for a short trade. But what is the most high probability is that we will continue with this range, because I know that the euro Japanese yen likes to range for a long time. So I need to see a nice big impulse either to the upside or to the downside. Let's move on to the Aussie pairs. So there was actually a trade opportunity right here. Let me take this back. I was seeing this nice big impulse. It showed me nice momentum and that we are trending to the downside. But then what happened, so at this point I was looking for actually a continuation pattern to enter short. And we were starting to get this pullback. So at this point, this was a huge warning sign to me, because we got double wicks and then an aggressive retrace. At this point I was looking for more of a range in order to enter a bomb. So I was wanting to see something like this. Push to the upside and then first bearish candle to enter on a short trade. But actually we didn't get that. What we got is we got this candle, and then this would also be the entry candle because it's the first bearish candle after the high has been broken. But to me this was not enough of a range, so I was not happy to take this short, and I did stay out of this trade. So what then happened, we started to range around, and actually we got a warning sign that this would happen even before it happened, because we got double wicks and then an aggressive retrace, which usually signals to me ranging price action. So something like this. And then what happened is that we broke the low and retraced. So currently I do classify this price action as descending price action because we just broke the low and retraced. And what I can forecast is that we continue with the descending structure. So we continue with something like this. Then we get a nice big impulse to the upside, look for a long trade. Or we can just stay ranging in this area, so break the high, retrace, then break the low, retrace, get something like this. And then I would stay out of this price action because it doesn't show me momentum. Also what can happen, we can get a nice big impulse to the upside. Then I will look for a bomb trade. Or we can get a nice big impulse, pull back another impulse, look for a bullet long trade. We can get an ascending from here, then get an impulse to downside, look for a short trade. Of course the impulse needs to be big enough because this can just turn out to be, so we have a descending here. If we get an ascending from here, then this can just turn out to be a larger range, so descending into an ascending structure. So yeah, those are some of the possibilities. I want to see, as I said, a descending, then a nice impulse to the upside. Or maybe we will continue with this, with the first impulse, then look for a trade. So with this impulse, but currently this is descending, and also it can turn out to be a range. So I need to see what happens on Monday, because it's the end of the week now. So I'm not expecting any large moves to happen, but yeah, we will see what happens. So let's move on to the final pair, the Aussie and the Japanese yen. So this pair is currently, so it's currently trending to the downside. We haven't broken the low, and so there was an opportunity to enter right here. Also on a bomb continuation trade. So we saw this huge wick at the end of the impulse, and then we saw this aggressive retrace, and I know that on the Japanese pairs that this is a huge warning sign for me, and I would not be taking any bomb trades because I'm seeing this huge wick, I'm seeing an aggressive retrace, and this can just turn out to be ascending and then impulse to the upside. So that can happen. That's why I don't want to be taking any continuation bomb trades, because I'm expecting for the price to reverse or maybe range around in this area for a long time. So then we actually did get an opportunity to enter on a bomb trade. So this would be the break of the high, and then I look for the first bearish candle, which is this one. This would be the entry candle, but as I said, I stayed out because of this huge warning sign. I didn't want to risk the 1%. Because it didn't fit my plan. And then currently we are just continuing with this range. So what I can forecast is that we continue ranging in this area. Maybe we get a nice big impulse to the upside. Then I would need to see what happens when we break the high, because it's a really long space to the high. What I would like to see is a nice big impulse to the downside, look for a bomb trade, or maybe an impulse, look for a bullet short trade, because then I'm seeing a trend. So I'm seeing this impulse, I'm seeing a pullback, a range, and then a continuation of the trend. Then I would enter. Also what can happen, we can get a descending from here. Then I would look for an impulse to the upside, look for a long trade. or maybe we get a nice big ascending structure that breaks the high, then we get a nice impulse to downside, look for a bullet short trade. So yeah, currently this pair is trending to the downside, and I want to see some momentum when we break the low. Then I would be very happy to enter on a continuation short trade, because then we are trending to the downside. We are seeing one impulse and then a second impulse, which is very high probability that we will continue with that trend. So yeah, that's it for the forecast. Currently it's Friday, so sitting on my hands and waiting to see what Monday brings us.